Thank you for joining us in this broadcast. These are some of the stories we have prepared for you.
Tonight, raw emotions, tears and pain at the Milimani Law Courts, but the judge is not relenting.
We cannot take a plea without mental assessment.
Joseph Irungu and TV journalist Jackie Maribe to remain in custody until Monday next week.
Also tonight, a brazen attack on a guard on duty. Foreigner caught on tape assaulting a guard in Karen. We'll tell you why.
Plus, more charges pile up for Okoth Obado.
The baby inside the mother's womb was already a living child.
Migori governor faces second murder charge of an unborn child, which could attract a life imprisonment.
Also tonight, heat in court as DCJ Mwilu fights her prosecution.
As the argument called normally, we are always generous.
I have only 1 hour here.
Judge extends court orders barring DCJ Mwilu's prosecution a second time.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Olive Burrows.
Thank you for joining us. You can also watch us live on ntv.co.ke/live or on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube on NTV Kenya. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa.
TV journalist Jackie Maribe and our fiancé Joseph Irungu, also known as Joey, will have to remain in remand until the 15th of October when they will be able to take plea against charges on the murder of Monica Kimani.
Justice Jesse Lasit has ordered Maribe to be detained at the Langata Women's Prison and to undergo a mental assessment at the Mathare Mental Hospital. Joey will be detained at the Industrial Area Remand Prison until the same date. NTV's Zainab Ismail with more.
Jackie Maribe was brought to the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi at around 9:30 Tuesday morning, accompanied by her lawyers. Emotions ran high as Mwangi Maribe, Jackie's father, laid eyes on his daughter, who has been in custody for almost 2 weeks now. There was a moment of almost painful embrace between the two. A few minutes later, Joseph Irungu also arrived at the court, newspaper in hand, and instances of wincing with pain, presumably from the wound on his chest, which police claim was self-inflicted in an attempted suicide. The two sat next to each other at the docks in awkward silence. They seemed lost in thoughts at times. Their lawyers would engage them occasionally before the case began. At one time, Jackie would hide herself, wiping tears off her face. Justice Jesse Lasit agreed to a request by the prosecution to have the two remain in custody until Monday, despite opposition by the lawyers.
The incarceration of the second accused, even up to Monday, would be unfair, and we pray that you do intervene on our behalf in the interest of the rights of...
We cannot take a plea without mental assessment. Okay. So I'll give them the time that they have sought.
Justice Lasit ordered that Irungu receives medical treatment for a wound in his chest that he allegedly sustained when he was shot outside Maribe's house in Langata.
Mr. Keme, you have a new client and I want you to take him to hospital.
Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji on Monday consented to the prosecution of the two on murder charges. In a statement, Haji said, and I quote, "I am satisfied that there exists a prima facie case to warrant criminal prosecution for the offence murder contrary to Section 203 as read with Section 204 of the Penal Code." Until then, Maribe will be remanded at the Langata Women's Prison and Irungu at Industrial Area Prison in Nairobi. And as the case of the murder of Monica Kimani continues to unravel, the legal team representing journalist Jackie Maribe says it will try and ensure she is released on bail or bond on Monday when Jackie Maribe and Joseph Irungu appear in court to take plea. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Dennis, I saw Jackie's father and her embrace in court. Were Joey's parents in court?
Well, they were actually in court, but they still didn't want, to be seen, embracing him and, just talking to him. At the moment, they still want to take a backseat and just observe and watch the events as they unfold. And it's the same thing they told me when I met them on Saturday. They don't want to reveal their faces yet because they're very disturbed. They feel confused, ostracized, and they obviously feel stigmatized because when I was talking to the mother, she said that the people are actually saying that that's the home of, you know, murderers. And so they have never encountered anything like this, and they're never prepared for anything like this. And it's part of the reason why during my interview with them, I spoke to the father who was working in his yard somewhere where there were pieces of wood all over the place. And then after talking to the father, he told me, go home, meet Joey's mother, talk to her, and we don't have anything to hide. Let her talk to her, tell you the whole story. So we moved, and then we went to their home now where we met the mother, you know, spoke to the mother. And they actually said, we can only interview them on condition that we hide their identity. They're not yet ready to be seen out in the public. They're confused and all that.
And I remember from the interview, Joey's mom saying every time somebody knocks on the gate,
she gets
afraid.
very afraid. So they say they wanted anonymity as long as they just tell the story. And one of their concerns was the the health condition of their son, which the court granted today.
I saw he had a sling.
Because they were saying that the hand is rotting and they need something needs to be done. So at least that was done today.
Okay.
Yeah.
The new charges preferred against Migori Governor Oktoberfest and his two co-accused over the death of Sharon Otieno's unborn baby has excited pro-life crusaders who believe it is a true test to the 2010 Constitution. With
these charges, the three will have to now fight 2 counts of murder, that of a mother and their unborn child, as they argue their innocence. Kennedy Marie reports.
The consolidation of the cases facing Migori Governor Oktoberfest, his personal assistant Michael Oyamo and Caspar Ojwang, and the introduction of murder charges over the death of Sharon Otieno's unborn child has ignited debate over an issue the 2010 Constitution sought to cure. When the accused appeared in court to take plea yesterday, Justice Jesse Lesit read out charges that incorporated the murders of Sharon Otieno and baby Sharon, as she called her, making them 2 counts of murder. The question on many people's lips is why the unborn. Article 26, 1 and 2 of the Constitution under the Bill of Rights recognizes the sanctity of the unborn and goes ahead to define where life starts. 26(2) explicitly says the life of a person begins at conception, and some doctors agree.
The baby inside the mother's womb was already a living child, and it was just a question of time and they would have been born independent of the mother. And therefore, if the baby died and was actually stabbed right through the mother's womb, then it means that that child was deliberately killed. It was not, the baby did not die on account of the mother's death.
The Penal Code Article 228 recognizes the killing of an unborn child, and the crime is punishable by life imprisonment. The law recognizes the unborn as a person and thus should be accorded the same rights as any other person.
If for instance, you went into a fight with a pregnant woman and you hit her abdomen deliberately, and the baby died as a cause of your action, then you can actually be charged with the death of the unborn child, even if the mother survives.
In 2004, Dr. John Nyamo, alongside others, were charged with procuring an abortion that led to the death of a fetus. By then, the definition of a person was that who had independently left their mother's womb. But that has since changed. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV in Nairobi County.
A video of a foreigner assaulting a security guard in Karen Estate, Nairobi, has evoked angry reactions from Kenyans who have seen it online.
The incident, which occurred on Wednesday last week, was reported at the Karen police station, but police seem to have made no progress on it. NTV's Sharon Baranga reports.
3rd October 2018, around 5 p.m. These 2 guards, a woman and a man, were going about their normal duties at their workstation at this barrier in one of the estates in Karen, Nairobi. But their daily routine will be disrupted by a man who did not want to comply with directives from the security guard. From the video, the woman appears to be engaging him in a conversation, but he steps out of his car, walks up to the man and shoves him. He then wants to open the barrier by force, but the security guards will not let him. Two of them alternated to keep the barrier down in the face of physical violence by the foreigner.
Normally, we have the barriers within the neighborhood associations that are controlled. And they are controlled because of security matters, tonnage of vehicles, and also for the welfare of the neighborhood. So what we found out is that there is a guy who was stopped. He was asked where he was going to. He did not respond. Then he was asked again. He came and opened the barrier for himself. By himself, he was asked where he's going. He could not respond. So when the guard closed the barrier, that is when he went and opened it again, and that's how the confrontation started.
Members of this community identify him to be of Russian origin. The case was then reported to Karen police station.
He assaulted the security guy, who went ahead to report to the police, and he took a P3 and reported the matter.
Non-residents accessing this estate have to comply with security guidelines, that is to identify themselves, the person and whom they are visiting.
We've had security incidences, carjacking, robbery, so that the barriers are meant to control security, but they do not deny access to anyone.
It will appear this particular foreigner felt too special to do that. And he may just be special. There was no response from the police on the matter. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Residents of Olo or Sirkon in Kajiado East constituency are unhappy with the delay in compensation for land taken up by the Standard Gauge Railway project since their houses were demolished earlier this year to pave way for the second phase of the SGR.
Some of the residents have decided to go back to their land, saying that the government has not fulfilled its promise of compensating them. Nuru Abdulaziz reports.
This is Olo Sirkon location, Tuala town in Kajiado East constituency. Residents here were convinced to move with the promise of compensation for land taken up by government for construction of the second phase of the Standard Gauge Railway. But months after they were asked to leave and reap that benefit, their expectations have turned to misery. Komu Mwati is among the more than 1,000 residents of Kajiado who have been directly affected by the project alongside schools, rivers, the forest and the national park. Mwati has been living in a rental house for 5 months now since his house was demolished.
Wakatuambia now that watu wa National Lands Commission wamewaambia nyinyi ati mtakuwa mmelipwa within 45 days. Wacha tulipie nyinyi rent some other places ili tuendelee na kazi yetu ya mjengo. Unfortunately, that was the last we ever heard of the National Lands Commission, the contractor who paid rent for only 2 months and disappeared.
According to Mwati, he had signed an early entry agreement with the China Communications Construction Company after a series of promises from them and the National Lands Commission NLC. Adding that he has been living here for 10 years before his house was demolished and had forgotten all about paying rent. Following the delay in compensation, Mwati is now rebuilding his house.
Nilikuwa nikijitahidi nione kama nitalipa rent kwa sababu sikukuwa nataka kukuja kufanya vile nimefanya. Lakini imefika mahali where nimekuwa very desperate.
About 3 kilometers from where Mwati is, Philip Polo is also a victim and his situation is not different.
I gave in and said, well, I cannot resist the project here since everybody else is already accepting the project to go on, but I will not move out of my place until we are paid. So they offered to build for me that temporary structure there.
Even as the government continues with its infrastructure upgrade, stories such as Mwati's and Polo's bring home the heartache that comes in its wake.
What has become a concern to us that no agency of the government actually wants to be associated with these things. So we wonder whether it's a government project or it's a Chinese project.
Ikiwa tutakuwa tunalala nje juu ya miradi kaa hii, then naona ni kaa hii miradi haifai.
According to NLC, payment for all those affected has been approved, but the National Treasury is yet to release the funds for compensation. Nur Abdulaziz, NTV.
The county of Makueni, that has been the SI unit for success in many areas of devolution, has quite an eyesore in the education sector, tucked away in Kilome sub-county.
Even though the school is calling on well-wishers for help, the county government might want to pick up on this one.
This is not a picture of an abandoned house or classroom, much as it may look like it. These are the dilapidated Mawani Primary School classes in Kilome sub-county of Makueni, where knowledge is disseminated. Class is in session.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Peter.
The school, which commenced with 9 students back in the year 2013, now has 46 pupils going up to class 4.
Mimi ni one of the delocalized teachers. Kwa hivyo nilichukua na a lot of humbleness na with a lot of kind hearts ndio watoto waweze kupata the standard ama quality education. I'm trying to see how we can try to, well-wishers can try to create the balance for these teachers. Sana sana naomba roli 3 ama 4 za mawe nisijenge na bricks.
Makueni is characteristically hot, but the space between the barely mud-thatched walls and the creaky roofing is not at all for air conditioning. If anything, the wind blowing through can present health problems. On the other extreme, being a rainy season, the teachers and pupils are drenched in worry because when it rains here, it pours.
Here thunderstorm inastua watoto na saa ingine ni wengine wanastuka ni kama wanaonelea ni wakati wa kifo. Alafu wakati wa hiyo pumbi windi inakuja. Siku ingine katoa mabadi yote na watoto wote tukakaa kama midudu.
The school has 5 TSC teachers who operate in deplorable conditions but still manage to get some good results from the pupils they are dedicated to.
Upande wa masomo hata sisi tunajifuna. Katika hii cluster hakuna shule ambao inatupita. Na watoto wanakuanga top 10.
Even with the challenges, these children of Mawani Primary School in Makueni are still determined to reach their goals. Mark Masai, NTV.
Mark, when was the sorry? Oh, yeah, that was Mark Masai. Reading that story. Dennis, when was the last time you used the word SI unit?
I was in Form 3, Form 4, I think, in physics.
Okay,
I
so
never liked it.
So it's short for?
Systems of unit, I think, something like that. Systems of unit. Standard of unit, something like that.
Okay, all right.
Putting me on the spot like that, I'll have to check Google. Well, the High Court has once more postponed the prosecution of Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu until the 17th of October.
Justice Chacha Mwita has extended the initial orders barring prosecution of Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu until Wednesday next week, when he will be expected to rule on a petition by the DPP seeking formation of a 3-judge bench to determine whether the DCJ should be prosecuted over alleged abuse of office charges.
The prosecution and lawyers representing the Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu engaged in a heated exchange in today's court session, where the Director of Public Prosecution Nurdin Haji was seeking the establishment of a 3-judge bench to determine if Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu should be prosecuted.
You don't need 20 minutes, Mr. Geto.
Justice Chacha Mwita, however, had to intervene and give directions.
Sufficient support both from the Constitution and the law.
I will give you 15 minutes because this is an application. There is no rocket science here.
Which party?
Of course. It is my discretion. You want a whole day?
The judge said he will give his ruling on the matter in the next court sitting on Wednesday next week. This is a further postponement of the prosecution of the Deputy Chief Justice after the High Court temporarily stopped criminal proceedings against her in August this year to allow resolution of issues on the constitutionality of the charges.
We have placed on record, or it is our submission, that we have sufficient support for our application for this matter to be referred to the Chief Justice for impanelling of a 3-bench or an even number of bench.
Mwilu is facing several charges of abuse of power, including using her office to receive 12 million shillings fraudulently from Imperial Bank in 2013. Mwilu's lawyer Okongo Omogeni asserted that the DPP abused his powers by charging the DCJ over a commercial transaction. The DPP wants Mwilo removed from office.
About judicial independence and about removal of a judge, about prosecuting a judge who is sitting. These have never been litigated in any court in Kenya or in the East African region.
The defense argues that Mwilo can only be charged if the Judicial Service Commission JSC petitions the president to form a tribunal, and that tribunal presents a recommendation for her removal from office. Daniel Mule, NTV.
Migori County Senator-elect Ochilo Ayako has given Governor Okoth Obado's county government a 2-week notice to end what he describes as rampant corruption in the county.
Speaking moments after being declared the winner of the just concluded Migori senatorial by-elections, Ayako, a fierce political opponent to Governor Obado, promised Migori residents his office will rid Migori of graft and restore service delivery. NTV's Oko Kusa with the full story.
85,234 votes is all Ayako needed to settle a popularity contest between him and the Federal Party of Kenya candidate Eddie Okech.
It is my intention to represent you effectively, to represent you passionately, and to represent you ethically.
Okech, who ran a highly competitive campaign, garnered 60,555 votes in the polls that have given ODM fresh bragging rights in a region where its popularity had been seen to wane thanks to Governor Okoth Obado.
This is an indication that Migori County is an ODM zone. For those who are doubting, today you got the answer.
Out of the 8 constituencies, Ayako trounced Okech in 7, only losing the battle for Uriri votes to the FPK candidate. Uriri is the home turf of Governor Obado. Ayako, who lost to Obado in the last general elections for the Migori gubernatorial seat, has not been seeing eye to eye with the embattled governor. When ODM had picked Ayako to fly its flag in the polls, Obado opposed the move.
ODM tried with Migori to pick a candidate through direct nomination and through consensus, and we can see it has worked. So going forward, this is one of the options we are going to look in all to use in all parts of the country, instead of getting into mess and chaos and problems in the nominations.
He was later to be accused by his ODM counterparts of funding Okech's campaigns, something the youthful politician has vehemently denied.
I've never met Deputy President William Ruto. I've never met Obado that they're talking about gave us resources. So it's just a way of appealing to voters through lies, which in some parts they did succeed. But let me tell you, you can lie to some people sometimes, but you cannot lie to all the people all the time. Yeah. We will come back. Yeah.
ODM supporters who kicked off their celebrations as early as last night strongly believe that Ayako is the leader they have been looking for to cleanse their county of alleged malpractices.
Hizi vitu zenye zinaendelea Migori County imekuwa mbaya. Na tunataka tuangalie hizi vitu zenye mbaya Migori County ili Ochiro arekebishe hizi vitu zote Migori County.
Oko Kusa, NTV.
Quite some dancing there. And now that you've had time to Google it, what is SI unit?
Oh, come on, Olive. I was just about to say, I'm wondering how Kokosa managed to escape. Did you see the guy who was talking? Camera is about to hit the camera.
International System of Units.
So I was right.
Half a point.
We are taking a short break, but find out why Third Way Alliance is collecting signatures. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you for staying with us.
Welcome back. And the Third Way Alliance, which is collecting signatures for a referendum to reduce the number of elected leaders, has disagreed with the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, that it may cost 12 billion shillings.
Third Way Party leader Ekuru Okot says it is possible to carry out the exercise online, and among their proposals is to have Kenyans vote wholesale for the proposed amendments as opposed to voting on every single one of them.
The campaign, dubbed Punguza Mizigo, seeks to reduce the number of MPs from 416 to 147 by doing away with the 290 constituencies and making the ward the unit of development.
Third Way, which says it has gathered 600,000 signatures so far in its effort to amend the constitution, also proposes a one-term 7-year presidency.
And to tackle corruption, it proposes a life sentence for convicted persons with trials concluded within 30 days and appeals heard within 15 days.
He thinks this will cost us 12 billion. It's not true. In fact, one of our proposals to him will be, and we promised to give him an update. You know, we met him last week and his commissioners. We are actually proposing that let's try online voting. After all, this system we are adopting, we demonstrated to them it is clean, it's above board, so we can also begin to vote actually online to cut down on cost. It's doable. This is 21st century. It happens elsewhere in the world. There's no rocket science about not being able to vote online.
5 Chinese nationals held at Muthaiga police station will spend another 5 days at the Gigiri police station to allow the investigating officers to complete investigations on matters related to national security.
In her ruling, Kiambu Chief Magistrate Patricia Gishoi noted the prosecution's argument that the suspects are a flight risk, acknowledging that the DCI wants to continue holding suspects as they are investigating offences of engaging in subversive activities. The 5 Chinese nationals were arrested 3 days ago in Lavington, Nairobi, with items believed to be threats to national security. Traders in Garissa town are counting losses running into millions of shillings after their business premises were demolished by the Kenya National Highways Authority.
Earth movers descended on the homes early in the morning, catching most residents unaware. Many tried to salvage whatever they could.
Among structures destroyed include the famous Doctors Plaza and part of Getune Primary School and some residences.
2 months ago, Kenha gave notice to all business people and homeowners with buildings erected on road reserves. The exercise, which began as early as 3 a.m., is expected to continue to Modika Center, 10 kilometers from Garissa town.
The worst affected included big hotels, electrical shops, kiosks, car wash points, eatery joints, and retail shops operating inside containers.
President Uhuru Kenyatta today met Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka alongside a delegation of MPs and Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, also with a delegation of some Western Kenya MPs.
A statement from the President's Strategic Communication Unit said the meetings focused on development and building bridges.
A group of leaders from different parties in Western Kenya paid a visit to President Kenyatta. Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula, who heads Ford Kenya. The leaders, who held separate meetings with the president, said they will support the government to achieve its development goals and in the ongoing fight against corruption and economic crimes. Kenyatta stated that his government would ensure the sugar sector in Western Kenya gets back onto its feet for economic growth of the country.
Government has pumped in almost 20 to 25 billion shillings into the sugar sector, but with no meaningful results. And I think Uncle Moody hit the nail on the head when he said, let us also be honest that this money has been misused. It has not gone for its intended purposes.
President Kenyatta said the report on the revival of the sugar sector will provide a clear position on how to move the sector forward and how to assist the sugarcane farmers. Former Vice President Moody Awori said corruption was the main reason the sugar sector had collapsed. Wetangula, on the other hand, called for a firm government policy that checks on imported maize and sugar to ensure cheap imports do not destabilize local production.
We had a serious open discussion when we said we will support His Excellency the President in his fight against corruption unreservedly from the floor of the Senate, from the floor of the National Assembly, from every county floor. And we also stand with you in uniting the nation.
Wiper Party leaders say that they are ready to support the president's Building Bridges initiative, which seeks to unite all Kenyans.
And he is also the
President Kenyatta stressed the importance of unity in achieving the country's socio-economic goal. Helen Aura, NTV.
We take a short break, but when we come back, Dan Mwangi will be on the other side with the business news.
Business News in association with Safaricom Business. Let's get down to business. Dan Mwang is my name. Now, after successful trading season debut that saw 9,566 bags of coffee sold last Tuesday, farmers had been readying themselves for the season's second day of trading at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Victor Kiprop brings us the highlights of how the world's most sought-after coffee performed in the recently concluded 2017-2018 season.
According to data from the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, coffee volumes in the just concluded 2017-2018 trading season increased by about 4.7% to 35,675 metric tons from 34,091 metric tons in the 2016-2017 trading season. Earnings from the crop, however, reduced by 8.8% from $159.2 million US dollars to $145.2 million US dollars over the period, as prices dropped by $30 from $233.5 to $203.5 for a 50 kilograms bag of coffee. The drop is attributed to the plummeting of global coffee prices, hitting a 12-year low as currency pressures in emerging markets and a bumper crop boosted supply into the market. Over the October 2017 to September 2018 trading period, the crop fetched the best prices, averaging at 284 shillings in February compared to an average of 190 shillings recorded in May. Kenyan coffee is ranked as the most sought after in international markets, fetching premium prices at the New York Coffee Exchange, the largest auction for the commodity. However, local farmers still wallow in poverty and complain of lack of market for their produce, blaming an age-old conspiracy between regulators, millers, traders and brokers. Over the last 3 decades, coffee's share of Kenya's exports has plunged by 5-fold as production dropped from a high of 128,000 tons in 1980 to 46,000 tons in 2016. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
Ceiling of revenue leakage is a perennial theme highlighted in Kenya's annual budget. With the economy confronting significant fiscal constraints, the government has stepped up its fight against counterfeit products. This week, the anti-counterfeit agency has pitched camp in the coastal region, a significant point of entry for imported products.
Official estimates suggest that Kenya's revenue loss attributable to tax evasion and counterfeit products stands at a staggering 30 billion shillings annually. To put this into context, an injection of 30 billion shillings would scale up the country's performance in mobilization of ordinary revenue in the financial year 2017-2018 from 92% to 94%. In light of this, the National Treasury, through the budget statement for financial year 2018-2019, proposed a multi-agency approach comprising the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the Kenya Revenue Authority and the Anti-Counterfeit Agency to help address this leakage. This approach seems to be yielding results if the government statement is anything to go by.
So far, we have seized nationally goods almost to the tune of 7.5 billion. 7.5 billion nationally from May to date. We have already seen the fruits, particularly from the port, because the counterfeiting issues and issues related to imports of illicit goods have drastically reduced.
Some analysts, however, contend that beyond the efforts to diminish the infiltration of counterfeit products, addressing issues such as the mispricing of trade invoices would go a long way in mitigation of revenue leakage.
What we would like to see is KRA trying to do audit reviews about how the tax system works and the leakages and all that. Then you try and close the loopholes. Yeah.
Towards this end, strengthening data verification and authentication with trading partners will be pivotal to Kenya's efforts to increase its tax revenue. Julian Samboko, NTV.
Telecom Kenya is betting on mobile interoperability to increase growth of its mobile money platform, that's T-Cash, as it struggles to gain footing in a market dominated by Safaricom's M-Pesa. Deposits on the platform, which has been in operation for only 6 months, grew to 44 million shillings, indicating the potential of Kenya's mobile money market. Telecom continued to push for regulatory intervention to declare Safaricom dominant, asserting that failure to correct these market imbalances would prompt a collapse and further degradation into a monopoly. The campaign against Safaricom has in the past not yielded much fruit, with the National Assembly dismissing the telco's plea and Communications Authority recently asserting that Safaricom's share control is in some areas rather does not constitute a significant market power.
So agent interoperability is the next step. This will allow agents to use their float, which is the money they put into the business, across all players. So it will enhance their profitability and also enable them to serve more customers.
East African countries are still struggling to increase credit to key sectors such as agriculture, as trade and private households emerge victorious, accounting for nearly half of private sector lending in the region. This in turn stunts growth in the sector due to limited investments.
For decades, the agriculture sector has remained the economic anchor of East African countries, consistently contributing between 25 and 35% of the region's gross domestic product GDP. The sector, however, can barely access credit from banks.
Private households and the trade sector have a share of over 40% of private sector credit, not only in Kenya, but even if you look in the region, in Uganda and Tanzania. What was striking though here is that agriculture, despite being the largest economic activity in the region, contributing to 25% of GDP, only gets 4% credit share.
Only Uganda has more than 10% of its private sector credit going to the agriculture sector, while both Kenya and Tanzania have less than 3%. Kenya introduced an interest rate cap in 2016 in order to reduce the cost of borrowing for small borrowers, especially in the key sectors. But instead, the Central Bank of Kenya admits the cap has failed to achieve its intended purpose, as banks have shunned high-risk borrowers for less risky treasury papers.
Credit flows to the trade and manufacturing sectors have remained relatively constant. They've maintained their pre-rate cap momentum, while credit flows to the transport, agriculture and real estate sectors have slowed sharply following the rate cap.
African countries currently spend about $35 billion annually on importing food, a figure that is projected to grow to $110 billion by 2025 due to limited agricultural productivity, largely attributed to the lack of access to finance. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
Irrigating semi-arid and arid areas in Baringo County appears to be the most trusted way to bring about a lasting solution to the issue of food insecurity in the county that suffers perennial drought and minimal rainfall, if any. The county has started several projects that are helping communities break their reliance on food assistance as they record bumper harvests.
Baringo County has suffered serious impact of drought and food insecurity, and large parts of the county remain dry with little rainfall. But the county is slowly changing its narrative of a hunger-stricken people, conquering the harsh weather and scale up its food production.
The Department of Irrigation has put strategies so that we increase the land under irrigation from currently 495,000 to 1.2 million within the next 5 years.
The government is currently running a pilot program where 133 households are practicing household irrigation, harvesting rain in water pans and using it to irrigate fast maturing crops such as vegetables.
We are also going to support the farmers by purchasing seedlings. We have started a search. We have done for coffee. We used over 7 million for the same. But here we are going actually to work together with partners to ensure that we start from Mogotio sub-county.
The program is designed to enable residents in the agro-pastoralist county venture into competitive farming, which will consequently improve their livelihoods as well as build the economy of the region. Achieng Wimbley, NTV.
Business is done. I am Wangi. Have a good night.
NTV Business News in association with Safaricom Business.
Let's get your business ready for today's challenges and tomorrow's opportunities.
Thank you for staying with NTV tonight. For many years, the porous West Pokot Elgeyo-Marakwet common border has not known peace.
In the last 5 years, more than 40 people have been killed in retaliatory attacks. But as our reporter Gabriel Kudak explains, the narrative is changing.
This is after more than 50 former bandits surrendered their guns and promised to support peace efforts in the volatile region.
This is an all too familiar sight here. The search for peace in Kerio Valley entails a long journey in the harrowing sun. The movement has affected farming activities in the area. Most of the land now lies fallow. Classrooms also remain empty. But the narrative is quickly changing. In the past, this sight was impossible. Reformed warriors drawn from the Pokot and Marakwet communities, sharing the same platform and even hugging during a peace meeting at Kamelei Primary School in Sigor constituency.
Tumekutana kama wandukus, tumesalamiana, maneno amekwisha. Maneno ya ng'ombe, maneno ya wizi amekwisha.
Mungu tembeleke ya gari yangu Marakwet lenyete. Sikujua kwamba itafika siku tunaweza kukutana kama vile tumekutana. Kwa vile tumekutana na kukubaliana amani iwe imekuwa namna hiyo.
But it has not been a walk in the park to reach out to bandits hidden deep within the bushes of the expansive Kamalogon forest, which has for many years been the bandits' hideout after unleashing deadly raids. Even the police are reluctant to venture into the forest.
Kufikia hawa mahali penye tumefikia ilikuwa ni kazi. Ni watu ambao wamekaa mahali fiche. Na tukaenda kwa njia ya approach method mpaka tukaonana na wao, tukazungumza na wao na wamekubali kutoka nje wakutane na wananchi wale ambao hawakuwa wanakutana na wananchi hapo awali.
Political leaders from Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot counties hailed the initiative, saying it will bring about the much needed transformation.
Vijana wetu wote ambao wamekuwa msituni wakiiba ng'ombe ya watu na kuua watu kutoka upande wote mbili wa Pokot na wa Marakwet wamekuja kusarenda na kusema tumeacha wizi ya ng'ombe na kondoo na uwaji ya watu. We have declared that no more gunshots of whatever kind.
We now want to focus on roads, want to focus on agriculture and other things, and our youth empowerment, so that at least security becomes a thing of the past.
The reformed bandits are now urging those who have fled their homes to go back, promising that no more bloodshed will be witnessed in the vast region again. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
We are taking another break. What are the curious coming up next with the sports news?
eyes will be on Captain Victor Wanyama as the national football team, the Harambee Stars, takes on Ethiopia in an AFCON 2019 qualifier tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the 60-seater Bahirudin Stadium in Ethiopia. Kenya, that has not played at the continental showpiece for 14 years, has a realistic chance this time around as it lies second, tied on points with group leaders Ghana, with Ethiopia third without a point. It will be a quick turnaround as Kenya will face Ethiopia again on Sunday at the Kasarani Stadium. This match will be played with a cloud of uncertainty hanging over Group F following Sierra Leone's FIFA ban. The Sierra Leone FA has written to FIFA to appeal the ban and be allowed to play Ghana away, with reports of a mediation team also being dispatched to Zurich to argue their case. Now, FIFA's condition for reinstatement of Sierra Leone was the reinstatement of the Sierra Leone FA President and General Secretary. The deadline was close of business today, and Sierra Leone has not done so. So it appears that the ban against Sierra Leone will stick. And we keep it football, and the national under-20 football team, Coach Hamis Mohamed, popularly known as Coach Kaka, will get coaching training from English Premier League club Arsenal, which incidentally he supports after being named the winner of the Future Stars program run by World Remit. Speaking on NTV's Top Spot this past Saturday, Coach Kaka spoke of his plans if he won, of his coaching philosophy and his decade-long work with Young Talents Academy in Kajiado County.
Kitangazo kwa mshindi naweza sema itakuwa ni ushindi si ya Young Talent, itakuwa ni ushindi ya Kenya mzima, na itakuwa ni ushindi ya community yangu. So cha muhimu ni kutoka kule na mafunzo, kuja hapa, kuorganize clinics, kwa sababu kitu ya maana ni kutoka na hiyo mafunzo huko, ni kuja nilete Young Talent, then kumaanisha sijasaidia hii nchi. Kwa hivyo cha muhimu ni kuja, tafuta partners, tutengeze coaching course, niweze kushare knowledge yangu na makochi ndio ifikie hawa. Niko na passion ya ball, na naweza sema Kenya inanisukuma sana ni kuona wachezaji ambao nimewaka nao na makocha ambao nimewaka nao nikiwaona wananufaika ndani ya uwanja na nje ya uwanja. Hiyo inanitia motisha, inanipatia nguvu, inanipatia enough encouragement kuniambia endelea. Ukiona wachezaji kama 50 kwa timu yako, usitarajie wachezaji wote watakuja kucheza top level. Labda wawili ama watatu. Kweli. Au 48 ama 45 wanaenda wapi? Sasa ile nidhamu tunafundisha pale katika kutumia huu mpira. Unapata watu wakitoka pale na nidhamu ya kuchezaji mpira, wakiingia katika society ama katika community, wanaingia ni watu wanajua respect, time management, wanajua teamwork. Sasa mimi nimevolunteer miaka 10 Young Talents, sijawahi lipwa hata sumni. Lakini kwa sababu ya Mwenyezi Mungu anasema, watu wanasema tenda wema nenda zako. Kweli. So mimi utenda wema hapa nenda zangu. Thawabu yako itaandika mbinguni. Tulikumba na tena wema zinakuja, zinarudi. Na ndio naweza sema kama hii. Kutoka watu 700 hadi watu 6 na unachaguliwa, hiyo ni Mungu si ati ujuaji yangu ama anything.
It couldn't have happened to a better person, and Coach Kaka is a regular on NTV's Top Spot, and also a pundit when we had the Kwese NTV partnership for the World Cup 2018. And Coastal outfit Bandari finished second in the just concluded Kenyan Premier League, and its sponsors, the Kenya Ports Authority, has rewarded the team with a 4-day holiday in Zanzibar. In addition, the managing director of KPA, Daniel Manduku, gave a personal donation of $500,000 shillings as a token of appreciation. The ceremony also saw Bandari fit players who shone in the 2018 season. Hassan Abdallah was voted the club's best player of the season. Ugandan William Wadri, who scored 12 goals, was the best striker. Wilberforce Lugogo was the best midfielder. Farouk Shikalo, the best goalkeeper, with Captain Feli Mulumba bagging the Defender of the Year award.
I want to say asante sana for a job well done. And I was just thinking, because you have trophies, trophies, I think as a motivation, I will send you to Zanzibar for training.
Zanzibar is a pretty cool place to go. And also, still on Bandari, Feli Mulumba, who's a Congolese, wishes to play for Harambee Stars. He won't be the first Congolese to do so. Bob Mugalia did so a while back, so maybe Coach Sebastian Menye can look into that. And the national youth boys hockey team, baptism of fire at the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, Argentina, continued with the 7-1 thrashing by India. Orlando Ouma scored the consolation goal for the team taking part in this discipline of five-a-side hockey for the first time. The loss to India made it 3 losses in a row for Kevin Lugalia's Chargers, who were thrashed 7-0 by Australia in their opener, and then they narrowly lost 4-3 to Canada. The hockey team faces Austria on Wednesday and completes the group stage action against Bangladesh on Thursday. Kenya will be hoping to start its medal rush when its athletes take to the track on Thursday. Now, in case you haven't heard about it, Senegal will host the next edition of the Youth Olympic Games. That's in 2022. And let's talk about rugby. And the national sevens team head coach Innocent Simiu today held his last ever training session in Nairobi with Shujaa, poised to fly out on Wednesday to Tunisia for the Africa Sevens. Simiu and his assistant Will Webster will be replaced by Homeboys coach Paul Pau Murunga and Mwamba's Kevin Bling Wambua after the Africa Sevens in Tunisia. Kenya is set to play Morocco and Botswana in pool matches as they seek to win a cup they last won in 2016 when they beat Zimbabwe in South Africa. A number of those set to represent Kenya in Tunisia were selected from the just concluded Stambik National Sevens circuit, with this set to be their first outing. Uganda are the defending champions after they won in 2017 in Kenya's absence. And Shujaa will be looking forward to just get themselves in order for the HSBC World Series, which begins in November. And Bayern Munich 3-0 home defeat to Borussia Mönchengladbach did not stop them from paying a visit to the city's annual beer festival. Accompanied by their families and dressed in Bavarian costumes, players, officials and coach Niko Kovac all took part in the traditional visit to the Oktoberfest. Bayern pride themselves on staying in touch with their fans, and members of the team are expected to participate in the visit regardless of results. After 4 matches without a win in all competition, Kovac, who took over this season, may have to start looking over his shoulder if things do not improve quickly for the Bavarians, who lie at an unfamiliar 6th place on the log after 7 matches. And that's your latest sporting update. And now, I asked you guys earlier, Oktoberfest, and both of you said you've no clue about it. Now
wait, I had a response. I did. What did they say, Dennis?
What did you say?
Yeah.
Well, I know what it is. I can't remember what
no, I said I know it has something to do with beer.
Do beer. I just know it's a big conference where people act silly, throw up, lose memory, and all that.
From experience?
I really love how you're going on and on about it. But my question to ask is, if we do Oktoberfest, and even in Kenya we celebrate it, why don't we do it? We do a Kenyan beer festival, maybe Kalovo and Moratina and Busa and Sanga.
The thing